All right. Hello. Welcome, everybody, to our Better Spaces class. Better Spaces is a health and happiness solution for today's hybrid workplace. And my name is Dr. Paul Kochoa with Par 5 Physical Therapy here in Randolph, New Jersey. And I partnered with them to bring you this easy and educational workday session. So today's session, we're talking about the fitness myths keeping you stiff, sore, and frustrated. We're going to talk about what science and decades of treating active adults actually tell us. Most of the common fitness myths and beliefs are completely backwards. So we're going to try and think about what is the true and what's false so that we can keep active adults like you away from getting stuck into cycles of stiffness, soreness, and frustration. We'll unpack why no pain and no gain doesn't hold up, why stretching isn't always the solution, and why more exercise isn't always better. But more importantly, you'll learn what actually drives long-term movement quality, resilience, and recovery. Okay, so a little bit about me. I've got my doctorate in physical therapy from Mercy University up in Dobbs Ferry, New York. Let's see, that was in 2010. And I got an exercise science physiology degree, BS from Rutgers University. That was in 94. And, I've been in the PT field for over 25 years now. I'm a board certified orthopedic clinical specialist, a certified dry needling specialist, certified movement specialist, golf fitness professional, golf medical professional, um, and a golf fitness instructor, and also a level 1 CrossFit coach. So the stuff that we're going to talk about today is stuff that I've learned over decades of work in the fitness, health, and wellness field. So hopefully it'll help you out. So let me pull up my slides here, and then we'll get started. So just like every time that I get on, if you have any questions that you want answered today, make sure that you use the chat or the Q&A box, okay, for everything. All right. So, and again, if you've been to any of my classes before, you should know this slide. But because when we're talking about, health and wellness, the stuff that we'll be talking about today is helpful and useful, but it's aimed at a broad population. So if you're dealing with something specific, make sure that you have it, thoroughly assessed by a medical professional. And if you don't know by now, you do not need to go to a physiatrist or physician or orthopedic doctor or physician to go have physical therapy. All right. I don't know how many times I've heard from clients and had phone calls where people are like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go to the orthopedic and then see what he thinks about my shoulder or my knee. I'm like, you don't need to do that. Skip the middleman. Go see a PT, because any skilled PT should be able to diagnose and give you solutions right then and there. All right. Not give you a medication, send you out for an MRI or whatever. Like, oh, we'll just, take a look at it. Here's some Loxicam. All right, whatever. You know what? Go to see a PT. All right. All right, so enough of my soapbox. Okay, so what we're dealing with here, usually what I hear from people is, they say, no pain, no gain, or stretch your hamstrings if your back hurts, or good posture means sitting up perfectly, or hey, I'm 68. It's just a part of getting older, right? Or well, another thing that I hear is like, oh, I'm just sore. It was a good workout. You know, Basically, today we might challenge and change some of those. Okay. So, myth number one, let's just get started here. Myth number one, no pain, no gain. All right. People usually think that pain means progress. Okay. But you know what? In reality, pain is your body's warning system, not your scorecard. Okay. So, we have to differentiate what is muscular fatigue, muscle soreness, or joint pain or injury pain. All right. So healthy training creates mild fatigue, right? Temporary soreness, but better movement the next time that you get into it, and gradual increase in your capacity. All right. Unhealthy training creates lingering pain, swelling, and movement compensations, and then inevitably maybe a fear of movement where you don't want to do something. I'll avoid that because it hurts, right? Or I've been modifying and changing my exercise routine because I can't do this. Okay. All right. The key takeaway is this, that progress is measured by what you can do tomorrow, not how much you hurt today. I've got 3 rules. Actually, there's like 3A as well. But there's 3 rules in physical therapy that I've been writing on my whiteboard here, telling every client that comes in. So the 3 rules are this. Well, number one, whatever discover, and we're talking about physical therapy, we're talking about exercise, we're talking about any intervention, anything that you do to address your problem or work out or do whatever, right? Rule number one, exercise, treatment, physical therapy, any discomfort that you experience with any of those things should never exceed a 5 out of 10 on a scale, all right? Intensity scale. So it should stay below a 5 out of 10. All right. Rule number two is that whatever that discomfort is, we should not feel that discomfort feels sharp or stabby. All right. That's it. So no sharp or stabby sensations. And rule number 3 is that it does not linger. As soon as we stop the exercise or stop the intervention or stop the movement, it goes away. All right. 3 rules. All right. Make sure that if you go see a medical professional, you go to PT or you're doing an exercise, remember those 3 rules. All right. Okay. Next, myth number 2. If you're tight, you just need to stretch. All right. Why do muscles get tight? That's the question. Why do you feel tight? Many answers. There's many causes, not just short muscles. All right. It's stress, weakness, protective guarding, like your muscles are like tensed up because they're protected, trying to protect something. Poor recovery. Like, what do you do after or in between your workouts is just as important what you do in the workout. Or too much prolonged static positions. Like we sit too much, right? Because our bodies will adapt to the positions that we put it in mostly. So if you're sitting a lot and your hips are flexed and you have problems straightening your hips or extending the hips, then that might be a problem because there's adaptive changes that happen in joints, in tendons, in ligaments, and in the muscle that can create tightness. All right? Because simply muscles can be on, like not relaxed, and that can make them feel tight. They can be short, or structures can be a little bit short, adaptively short. So a lot of different things. Now, tight doesn't always mean short. Just remember that. All right. The nervous system, your nervous system, and the brain governs everything. All right. So the nervous system often creates tightness for protection. All right. Nervous system, your nerves often create tightness for protection. All right. So examples are tight hamstrings with back pain. All right. Why do the hamstrings get tight? I'll explain that in a moment. Or tight calves from weak feet. Okay. Or tight hip flexors because of weak glutes. So sometimes strengthening creates more flexibility than stretching. All right. So this is a short, quick demonstration. So this is something that I've run into a lot in my clients that come in. That when they come in, I take them through this movement assessment because if you're coming in with a certain body part, whether it be knee, hip, or back, let's just say, for example, that has a problem, we want to look at how everything connects to the area of pain. So one simple test that I do is, you know what, let me kick off my shoes because this is done better barefoot. All right. So you can try this at home. All right. While you're sitting or while you're there, you just stand up. So the test is called multi-segment flexion. It's basically feet together, knees stay straight. You're going to tuck your chin. And then this is the first time that I'm going to be doing this today. So we're all going to experience what I experience. All right. And see what kind of flexibility I've got, because flexibility in your hamstrings, particularly what we're going to test right now, and also back muscles and stuff, The flexibility and ability for me to move varies from day to day based upon a lot of those other factors that we just mentioned. So here I am, multi-segment flexion, basically tuck the chin, round out the shoulders, and go down. You're gonna touch your toes. You want to keep your knees straight. So if you bend your knees, that's a fail. What we're looking at also is, can we create this uniform curvature of the spine as we go down? All right, so here I am. I'm at my bottom range. I can't touch my toes. I feel like my knees are straight. Let me just check, maybe scoot forward so I could see in the mirror. Whoop, whoop, whoop. All right, here we are. I can't get there. So what tends to happen is that another test that we'll do is a multi-segment flexion test in sitting. So it looks like this. We did it in standing. Now we're going to do it in sitting. All right. So I'm going to get my feet together. Okay. Same thing that I had in standing, keeping my knees straight. And I'm going to try and touch my toes. Here we go. I don't know what's going to happen. So you'll be as seeing what I see. All right. So here I am. I can touch my toes. Am my knees straight? Let's just double check. I'm locking out my knees and I'm here. Look, I can touch my toes here in this position in long sitting. Now let's go ahead and check this out again in standing. All right. So let's see again. I repeat. In standing, multi-segment flexion. Knees stay straight. Can't. Not as easy. What's happening here? What's happening? So big explanation. I see this all the time is because when we test the shape of our body, forward flexion, and we feel tightness in the hamstrings, what's happening in standing, especially with this narrow base of support, we're testing a couple things, not just flexibility. We're testing the ability for your body to hold itself up and stabilize against gravity. Okay? So if I bend down, my nervous system says, hey, my center of gravity is moving, my body's changing shape. I don't want to fall down, hit my face on the ground. So I have to turn on these muscles in the back, posterior chain, we call it, to keep myself up. All right, so I don't fall over. So everything from my Achilles, my calf, my hamstring, my glute, my back muscles are going to turn relatively on because they're holding me up right now, right? If they turned off, I just flop right over. So that stability and the muscles holding me up dictates what is on and what's preventing me from bending forward. Okay? So if you bend forward in this position, you're like, oh, I feel the tightness in my hamstrings, I can't touch. But then you go into that long sitting position and you can touch your toes with your legs out in front of you. That means that your body has learned to use your hamstrings to keep you upright against gravity using these muscles instead of your glutes to keep you up as you bend over, right? So this is the muscle that should be holding you up so that this muscle can turn off, relax, and lengthen all the way so you can get down and touch your toes. If that doesn't turn off because it's holding you on and the tone is high, then it's not going to lengthen or relax and lengthen and give you the ability to reach your toes in standing. But if you're long sitting and you're out, your legs are out in front, it doesn't have to hold you up. So it can turn off and allow to express that full flexibility and range of motion without restriction. And then you have the ability to touch your toes. All righty? All right, so cool. Hopefully you were able to participate with me and then get into that position and see what's what. So that's a quick little, easy little test of how we can use our body and its integrated systems, musculoskeletal or neuromuscular, to change flexibility. All right, so that's myth. That's a myth, right? So muscles don't have to be tight. All right, so let's see. Next one. Myth number 3. Perfect posture prevents pain. Okay, so what does that mean? You know, let's take a look at this. Let me grab a chair. You're probably all sitting. Actually, let's pull up my two-shot back again to this camera here. All right, cool. All right, so perfect posture prevents pain. All right, so here I go. I'm going to be sitting here. Let's see if I can get into a good angle so you can see. All right, you can see my back. All right, so here's good posture. Okay, good. We agree. It's good posture. Does it look good? Shoulders, hips, knees, or shoulders, trunk straight over the hips. Cool. And then I think here's bad posture. Okay, cool. All right. So we got bad posture, and then good posture. All right. So which one causes pain? All right. Which one of these positions causes pain? Anybody? Anybody? The answer is neither. All right. Neither of those positions create pain, unless you're going to be getting into those positions and it hurts, right? So, one, motion is the best posture. So, the best posture, I was saying, the best posture is your next posture. Movement is always better than static positions, whether it be sitting, standing, walking. Always think about changing positions and movement snacks throughout the day. Because, like I said before, our body adapts to the positions we put it in. If we're sitting for too long, I would say every 30 minutes, we want to change that position. You've got to stand up. All right. So, rule of thumb, if you're sitting at work and you're focused on the task, I'm having a meeting and the meeting's long, it's longer than 30 minutes. You got to set a timer and you're going to change position. You're going to go into a standing position. All right. Get a standing desk, up and down or whatever. And then also, if you stand, I think the upper limit for any prolonged standing position would be 1 hour. And there are other strategies to improve the tolerance to standing. I think I probably cover those in other classes. Okay. So the big takeaway for this myth is that movement variety beats posture perfection. All right. Movement variety beats posture perfection. Okay. Myth number 4, soreness. All right. Soreness means you had a great workout. Oh my God, I worked on my legs and I feel it. Okay. So anyway, what soreness is after a workout is what we call DOMS. It's delayed onset of muscular soreness. Explained simply, it's a delayed soreness and a chemical process that happens in the muscles that you use that creates this soreness. Now, it isn't muscle damage, although depending upon the research and the studies that you look at, there is some microtrauma that happens in the tissue cells, but soreness isn't required for progress, okay? Actually, as you get fitter and fitter, as your fitness improves, your soreness decreases. All right. So the soreness after workout decreases as you improve your health and your fitness. Okay. So that's myth number 4. So what really drives results is not how sore you are, but the results come from consistency, progressive overloading, right? So progressively going week to week, increasing the intensity of your workouts, proper recovery. Like, how do you recover after these workouts? Like today, I had a big workout yesterday, and then, today's my recovery day. I'm gonna get like some soft tissue work done. So I got to recover from yesterday's workout. Also, what's important is sleep. All right, how much sleep are you getting? We need a quality 7 to 9 hours a night. All right, nutrition, hydration. Like, how much water are you getting? A rule of thumb is going to be half of your body weight in ounces per day. And exercises that are appropriately challenged to you, right? So soreness is not a good barometer. All right. So if we measure like how much weight you're lifting, what's your capacity for your aerobic capacity for running a mile or a bike or whatever, what gets measured gets changed. All right. So if you don't measure it objectively, you don't know where things are going or if you're improving actually your fitness. All right. Don't let soreness be your goal. Okay. So now myth number 5, getting older means getting weaker or tighter. All right. So, is stiffness or weakness, is that caused by birthdays or is it by lifestyle? All right. So here are 2 examples. I'm going to show you this. All right. I'm going to pull this up on full screen so you can see what I'm talking about. All right. Check this out. So this is an MRI of a 40-year-old triathlete. Basically, this is their thigh. All right. Let's see if I could pull this here. If you can see my little cursor. This right here, you can see my little mouse is circling that white thing. That's the bone. That's the femur, and all of this stuff around it is the thigh muscles, quads, hamstrings, and then the white stuff is the adipose tissue and subdermal tissue. All right, so that's a 40-year-old triathlete. Now, if we look at a 74-year-old sedentary man, this is what their thigh MRI looks like. Adipose tissue and quadriceps. So you can see the comparison. All right, 74-year-old sedentary man. And there's a lot of research and pretty famous studies about this. So comparing the MRI of a leg in a sedentary man to a 70-year-old triathlete. So you can see the difference here. The difference is remarkable. All right. So 70-year-old, even though it's like a 4-year difference, they're still in the same decade of life, 74 and 70. And you're seeing a difference between a trained and untrained leg. All right. Essentially, what do we want? Do we want this weak adipose tissue or do we want this? So age changes some things, but it does not mean that chronic pain is inevitable, that loss of mobility is normal, and you stop exercising because you avoid certain things. No, normal aging is, it means like maybe slower recovery. All right, we need to really dial down how our workouts are and make sure that we recover well. Certainly there's going to be less muscle mass because we lose the biggest type 1 muscle fibers. So those fast twitch muscles fibers we lose mostly. And then also that equates to less power. But remember, your body adapts to the things that you do to it. All right. You want to get stronger bones. You got to put weight on your body. All right. If you want stronger muscles, you have to stress those muscles. The body adapts at every age. There's a famous strength coach that says for every decade of your life, you want to preserve or use that percentage towards mobility and recovery in your workout. So if you're 50 years old or in your 50s, you go to work out, 50% of your exercise, your workout time should be spent on soft tissue work, mobility, stretching, stuff like that. And then that percentage goes up. So 70%. If you're in your 70s, 70% of your workout should be designated to mobility. All right. But that does not decrease the need for strengthening. And I can't stress this enough, that a lot of times my older clients are afraid of lifting heavy because they think that it's going to hurt or break their bones or whatever. Your body is weak because you are avoiding stressing your muscles and your bones the way they should. Okay? So that's key. All right. Next myth is going to be a strong core means six-pack abs. All right? If we look at this picture here, this is a picture of the abdominals, rectus abdominis, transverse abdominis, internal, external obliques. These are the abs. This is your core. Is it? Good question. Because the core actually includes not just these muscles, but also the diaphragm, which is the roof of the core, the pelvic floor, which is the bottom part of the floor, the multifidus muscles, the muscles in the back, the deep lumbar spine muscles, the obliques, the glutes also, and your hips. So the core's function is to transfer force. It's basically the chassis of your body's engine. That needs to be stable. It needs to protect movement, and it improves efficiency because the muscles of your shoulder blade, your scapula, and your glutes and your hips, all of those are the bigger muscles that drive movement. And the core, your abdominals, your trunk, that needs to transmit the force up and down the chain, we call it. All right? Core stability is really about endurance, right? Because most daily activities that need core stability, they last minutes, not just or hours, not just like 30 seconds. So if you're doing like a 30-second plank or whatever, it's not enough. Better training, and we talked about this in other classes that I've had on here, is that better core training involves carries, prolonged carry variations like farmer's carry, suitcase carry, overhead carry, front rack carry, all of that stuff. Anti-rotation exercises like the Palloff press, Palloff hold, and proper breathing using the diaphragm in conjunction to your abdominal muscles so that you go and breathe at the same time that you're doing these exercises. You're not going from breath hold to breath hold because you can't stabilize. All right. And also integrating the core in balance. So single-legged movements as well. I think there's another class on Better Spaces that I did a couple weeks back about just that. All right. All right. So the best recovery, myth number 7, is the best recovery is doing nothing, just resting. Okay. I'm going to rest. Oh, you know what? I had a bad, hard workout this morning. I'm just going to rest. Cool. All right. But rest helps. Don't get me wrong. But too much rest hurts. All right. Movement is always better. Movement improves circulation, joint nutrition. It increases synovial fluid production, so it lubricates the joints, right? It decreases stiffness, it improves recovery. So we need active recovery, all right? That means walking, mobility exercises, soft tissue mobilization using a foam roll, a massage gun, or something like that, light strengthening work with light weights, moving your body daily. And like I said before, proper sleep, hydration, and a proper diet. Okay. All right. So what actually keeps people moving well as we age into our 50s, 60s, 70s, etc.? So instead of the myths that we talked about, pain for gain, stretching everything that's tight, perfect posture, resting more, or just doing random workouts, we want to focus on building strength consistently and progressively over time, moving often, recovering well, and progressing everything gradually. All right. You want to listen to your body, what it's telling you, and analyze your symptoms. And if you're stuck figuring out, like, oh, I don't know what's going on or whatever, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, then you know what? You need to seek professional help. Go see a PT, ask them about, like, hey, what am I supposed to do? What about these myths? What about this workout? I just had a guy call me this morning. He is world Guinness holder or something like that, world champion of chin-ups. All right. So he's doing an exorbitant amount of chin-ups and he has a clicking, painful shoulder. All right. So he's going to come in next week. We're going to kind of analyze that. I don't know what's going on, but you think about that problem of maybe overtraining, maybe it caused some shoulder issues. I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right. So let's talk about the 5 rules of lifelong wellness and movement. All right. So super quick. Pain is information, not the goal. All right. Strong muscles stay loose longer. All right. So we talked about that stability versus flexibility. Your next posture is your best posture. Movement is always good. Consistency beats intensity. And your body always adapts at every age. All right. So just remember all of these things. All right. And ask professionals if you do have any questions, because myths are just that. We can debunk them and they don't mean anything. All righty. So let's see here. I think that's all. I'm going to check the chat and the Q&A box to see if anybody's got any questions. If not, if there's no questions, I'm going to wrap things up and let everybody enjoy their Tuesday afternoon. All right, I usually give it like a 30-second countdown here. All righty. All right, cool. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. Again, like I said, you could look for this session and many more that I've done on the Better Spaces apps. I'll be back again August 18th, Tuesday, August 18th, for Movement Snacks, the science of tiny habits. You think you need a full workout to feel better during the day? Think again, because most stiffness, fatigue, and back and neck discomfort come from desk work that it isn't solved. It isn't solved by one big workout. All right. It's improved by small, consistent movement breaks throughout your day. Hey, we just talked about this, right? Yeah, I'll introduce the concepts of movement snack, short, simple bouts of movements that help you reduce stiffness, improve energy, and keep your body feeling better between meetings. You'll learn why periods of long sitting have such a strong effect on how you feel, how just a few minutes of intentional movement can change your entire workday. All right. So hopefully you can join me then. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to email me here at paul@par5pt.com or team@betterspaces.com. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and be well.